Welcome to the PropTech podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and the real estate agents and property owners, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. The aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible, and to explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. And this week, it's one for the commercial property owners and managers, with an interview with Wayne Herbert from AI Assets, a smart new PropTech with some very big credentials that solves a problem nearly every building owner currently has with its asset register. Now, AI Assets is an AI-driven property asset management platform that makes it quick and easy to identify, capture, and manage the thousands of features, systems, materials, and devices that make up the asset register of any commercial or industrial building. The company used to be known as Aston Industries, but recently it changed its name to AI Assets to reflect the capability of its new platform, which it has used with some landmark projects with major property owners including Woolworths, CommBank, and even the Sydney Cricket Ground. Wayne has more than 20 years' experience working in property valuations and asset management consulting himself, so he knows firsthand how laborious, time-consuming and problematic the traditional methods of capturing assets for an asset register is, and how powerful getting access to an up-to-date asset data can be when budgeting and reporting. So here to explain more, Wayne Herbert. Welcome to the PropTech podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you here. So, look, I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into this because smart buildings and smart cities are part of my passion. So I really want to understand, what is the AI Assets elevator pitch?
It's really about data efficiency, data capture, data quality, really getting data off spreadsheets and really into the modern world and cloud-based, easily accessible and easily updatable.
So what we're talking about, though, is around this idea of capturing the assets for a property and turning them into data, right?
That's right, yeah, the physical assets of a property. So, your air conditioning, your plant, your equipment, your building fabrics and finishes.
Yeah, and so we hear a lot about how they're all the things that make up a smart building these days, but in older buildings, I imagine, making them modern is quite a task.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. It's funny, I was actually speaking to a potential client this morning around the way they do things, and they've got no data at all on their buildings. They work totally reactive.
Right.
They just wait till something breaks to fix it. So it really is an issue with a lot of old property portfolios.
Yeah, okay. So let's wind back a little bit. Let's talk about asset management in commercial property. How has that been done traditionally?
Yeah, so there's one example. So that they're a client. They physically just wait till something breaks to fix it.
Right.
So purely reactive. And that's the way it's done a lot of times. And a lot of that is because getting the data is quite difficult, or it lives in an old spreadsheet. Those that do have it, it's a spreadsheet that, could be 5-10 years old. And that's why they work off.
Yep. Or a filing cabinet, I imagine. Like when you bought it and they gave you the manual. Exactly right. Put that under someone's desk, keep it from wobbling.
Manager's mind, it's the guy, I've been here since the start, I know where everything is. And it's like, yeah, but then you leave.
Yeah.
And nobody knows anything. So, and that happens a lot in the industry.
Okay. So I guess what we've got here inside existing and older buildings is a whole lot of unstructured data, haven't we? Like we've got a whole lot of assets that no one really knows about. Yep. And what we're looking to do is to turn them into a data stream so that they can be managed more effectively.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, trying to get the data up to date, basically.
So trying to turn something analog into something digital.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So problems with doing it the old way, really slow. No one knows what's what.
Yeah, time's a big thing. So to capture the data is really cumbersome usually.
Yeah.
Really, and then it's like I say, if it's in an Excel sheet, it's out of date, and stored in that Excel sheet for years, so people can be working off 5-10 year old data.
Yep.
Budget blowouts, not knowing exactly what they're going to be able to predict moving forward. So that's a big thing is cost.
Yep.
So they're really probably the biggest issues
Right.
of doing it the old way.
Yeah. So if I'm a building owner, what that's making me at risk of is what I guess unexpected big expenses coming up because I just didn't realise something was wearing out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll give you another example of a project we did a number of years ago. It was for a hospital over at Orange, and they just appointed a new service provider, and it was a service provider got us in to help them. They was provided an asset register through the tender process. They had a 5-year contract to maintain the hospital, and we went in and did a full asset register for them, and they had over $2 million in variations from assets that weren't listed in the.
Ow.
So of course that goes to, so that's the owner that is paying an extra $2 million per year because they didn't know that. So there's an example of the budget blowouts from not knowing what your assets are.
So just explain that to me though. What was $2 million? Was that the hospital had $2 million worth of assets that it didn't know about, or
that was variations to maintain the unknown assets? So during the process, the hospital provided from their existing systems.
Yep.
This is the asset register, what we need maintaining.
Yep.
A contractor came in. I won't say their name.
Yep.
Am I allowed to say names? I don't know. They're one of the large service providers, one of the largest FM service providers in Australia and globally.
Yeah.
So they came in, won the tender, and then they went to site, and we did a due diligence of capturing the actual asset register for them, and found a lot more assets. So obviously, then their maintenance fees went up by $2 million to the owner.
Wow. Okay. So does that mean that they were already paying the $2 million because but they just didn't realise that they were attached?
Well, they weren't fully maintaining all of their assets. But
okay.
They was only maintaining what was in their existing system. So yeah, a lot of assets weren't being maintained, were failing.
Okay. So
the cost implications there were pretty big.
Yeah. So does that make people a little bit like is this a bit ostrich with head in the sand sort of stuff? Are there landlords or owners out there who just don't want to know?
Yeah, you do definitely. I'm not sure if I wouldn't say it's the owners that don't want to know. I think it's the ones that are managing the portfolios don't want to know.
Right.
It's really, obviously as an owner, you'd want to know that. You'd want to know, well, what's there, what's my true value, what's my future costs.
Yes.
Etc. But if you're managing the portfolios, sometimes it's a bit, no, hold on, you've exposed this here, and we've seen that a couple of times with clients as well.
Yeah.
Where it's like, hold on a minute, you're showing me up. I should be looking after all of this equipment.
Right. And I didn't even know it existed. I've been walking past it every day and forgot about it. Well, I mean, you go blind, don't you, when you're in a building or you're in an environment all the time? You stop seeing things.
And you find it when it fails.
Yeah, that's right. So the problem that building owners have got at the moment with long-standing existing assets is that they have a whole lot of assets sitting inside their portfolio that they may not know about until they fail. Then they're going to be facing a rather large bill to get them fixed. But if they're aware of them in advance, they'll be able to start to budget, plan and manage for upgrades and updates and things like that.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So how big a problem is this in the commercial real estate sector?
Huge.
I can imagine, because I'm thinking there's a lot of very old commercial buildings out there.
There's a lot of old buildings, and it's not just commercial, really. It's you can look across all the sectors. It's a real big issue, and it's well documented that reactive maintenance is at least 3 to 4 times more expensive than planned maintenance.
Oh, I like that number. Yeah, okay, and why is that? Because some things fail rather than just getting
obviously
oil and
looking at it from exactly. Obviously there's a maintenance side of it, but also every asset in a building has a life cycle to it. Looking at, say, for example, lighting, for example, it might be a 20-year life cycle on a light. If a building was built in in the year 2000, in 20 years' time, all of those lights in that building are going to be coming to the end of their life.
Yeah.
So on a reactive way is people will wait till light breaks. They'll do a call out. You get the call out, minimum charges, etc., to change the light. But over the next year or two, they're going to constantly keep popping, and they're going to keep calling out different ones. Where if you got it planned, you'll know in 2020 that, hey, these lights are coming all to the end of their life. You can do it as a whole.
Yeah. Or you could even do something like, well, if they're 20-year-old lights, maybe we should upgrade them to LED or something, and therefore improve the quality and do it in one hit.
Yeah, there's a number of areas you can do things. Yeah, but
Okay, awesome.
you can plan properly and you can save a lot, budget better.
Okay, so tell me how AI Assets works, because you used to be called Aston Industries, which a few people might know you about, but you've now got some proprietary tech. So tell me how that works.
Yeah, so it's really about it's a two-part system. So there's an application for using on site for data capture, which really makes that side of things much more efficient. You can really go in a building really quick and capture it. There's nothing, it gets away from the old pen and paper methods and that type of stuff to speed that process up. And then the online database, which is through the cloud, that's got life cycle data included in it, and your capital replacement cost, your life cycle data, to help you produce those budgets. And it's really about bringing that asset register off the Excel sheet or the filing cabinet into the modern world and into the cloud, and keeping it active and live in the most efficient way, so you're not working off old data.
Right. Okay. So I'm imagining back in the old days, a couple of years ago, we used to go around with a clipboard or something and write everything down on a facilities manager would maybe go around and write stuff on a clipboard and then go back to their desk and type it into a spreadsheet.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's okay. My background. That's what I used to do. That's where this sort of came from. And so I used to do that. You'd use clipboard, pen and paper. Your camera. You'd come and try and put it back together into an Excel sheet, or you'd use a couple of different systems that are out there, but they're all quite cumbersome.
Yeah.
And you miss a lot of data, because it's when you're out in the field all day, you miss a lot of assets.
Yeah. Okay.
So the quality of data drops down, and it's a slow, cumbersome task.
Right. And so as an asset manager or capturer in this asset lifecycle manager in this space, you thought, what, stuff this for a game of dominoes? There's got to be a better way? Or
yeah, I've always had that sort of in mind of like, well, there's got to be a quicker way of doing this. That's always been my mind, and that's what led to building this system, from using different systems, from the paperboard for the clipboard to pen and paper to numerous different systems. Just none of them were quick and efficient, and it's just like, how can you get data quicker than this? Yeah, so it's my born frustrations, and then trial and error, and that's what came up with what we've got.
Okay, so when you're out on site, you're taking photos or capturing the details of things, and what you've got a centralized database of common assets and types and classes that are kind of pre-recorded or pre-registered, or
pre-recorded. So there's over 1,800 different types of building assets currently in the system, which is growing, daily. That can be modified by the user, so they can add new assets in if they have different types of asset classes into that. Yeah, and that's all in the central system. And basically, the process is, once you've been on site, you just synchronize to the cloud, and you can generate the reports. There's no collaborating it all on the back end. The system does that.
You don't have to go back to the office and get your girl to type it up or anything. Oh, nothing. I love that plan.
You can either get the simple asset register out, you can get your life cycle plans, your condition reports, just at a click of a button.
I can see people cheering everywhere. And now let's hear a word from our sponsors. For almost 16 years, Direct Connect has made moving easy for over 1.2 million renters and homeowners by arranging connections to a wide range of services, from electricity and gas to internet and pay TV. With a national team of local account managers who are experts in the industry, Direct Connect are there to support your real estate business with competitive rewards for every successful connection, plus an industry-leading rewards program. The connection process is simple, and Direct Connect's always-on guarantee ensures your customers will be connected on the day they move in. Direct Connect offers a range of market-leading suppliers, and Direct Connect has now made it even easier than ever to send connections, directly integrating with MRI Software's Property Tree. So in just a few clicks, while processing a tenancy, you can send the connection details through and get your customers connected. To make the right connection and find out how Direct Connect can make moving easy for you and easy for your customers, visit agents.directconnect.com.au or call 1300 558 169. So how does this help old buildings or analogue buildings become smart and digital?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Obviously, I guess the key one is they're going to be working off more modern and accurate data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we sort of see it, that we want to be, smart buildings it is a buzzword, isn't it? But are they really smart? And I don't think they are, because definitely for smart building, it's got sensors here, sensors there, the BMS, all these different systems. None of them talk to each other and none of them are linked. So how smart is it? And, it gives you data out, but somebody still has to analyze the data to do it. So to me, a smart system really they should all be linked together, and the system should be telling you what to do and when to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the key, central to that are all the physical assets of a building, which is, where I see that we are. And that's where I want to be, and linking with all of these other systems to truly make smart buildings.
Yeah, because we see there are sort of a growing number of solutions out there that are collating and collecting all the data sources from the smart devices that are inside buildings and sending data streams in. But I guess the missing link that you guys are filling is that also that there's an awful lot of buildings and materials and property features that aren't smart, that are just, they got built as part of the building and that, but they still need to be maintained and managed.
Yeah.
I mean, pipes aren't smart, are they? No.
Exactly.
I mean, God bless septic sewage.
It feeds down to the budget at the end of the day. It all goes into it of when should I replace an asset, and so that's where we're really interested in linking into the smarter systems, is to get the data from them so we can get our life cycle predictions much more accurate.
Okay, awesome. So if every building in a property owner's portfolio had its assets captured with AI assets, how would that change their portfolio or what they do with their portfolio?
It really gives them better control over it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the key to it. It will give them much better control over, future costs, future budgets, future maintenance, and a real overall picture of their asset portfolio.
Okay.
Which can lead into obviously valuations, the purchasing and selling of properties.
Yep.
Because obviously if you've got a good history, when you're in the sale process, a good history and a good future planning, in a way it's like a logbook of your building portfolios.
Yeah.
It gives a great insight to the purchaser or the seller.
Yeah, and I guess that's true, isn't it? Because we have logbooks for cars, and we have, and we're able to see the sort of service history of a car. It's very strange that we don't have that yet for buildings.
Yeah. No,
or it's not common practice yet. Yeah.
No, it's not. And you look at people when they do looking for investments, looking at, say, buyers agents in the residential area, they always look at the return on investments. But the one area they miss, is really about, well, what am I going to be spending on that property over that investment period?
Yes.
So stripping it back to residential, it's like buyer's agent goes out, here's 10 properties, here's your return on investment in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't look at, well, what you've got to spend on each of those properties in the 10 years in replacements and maintenance costs. So what's the real return on investment? So that's a big part that's missed in throughout the industry in different sectors.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're only so the product's primarily at the moment for commercial, but could it also be used for residential?
Yes, so certainly to a degree. Well, yeah, in that example I've just given there for the typical residential house, certainly within strata communities they can, where they have to have a 10-year capital works budget in place due to the Royal Commission that was a few years ago in legislation. So that area needs it. So, it's built in, it's there, and the typical way that they do it, strata managers go in, pluck some numbers out of the air, put it on a sheet and go, here's your capital works plan for the next 10 years. And then obviously it's not accurate. So you get the special levies come through and the owners are the ones that end up paying them because they miss certain big items off.
Yeah. I believe I may be a member of a strata committee that does exactly that. So you've got some pretty big clients. What and you've sort of built the product out with are we talking about Woolworths? Are we allowed to say Woolworths? If we aren't, if we're not, we'll take them out.
I guess so. I don't know.
All right, I'll start that again. So you've had some pretty big clients, and in fact, you built the product out with the support of a major client. What was their experience? What were their experiences in using the platform? What kind of things were revealed? You talked about the hospital example before. I really want to pull apart the sort of things that came out of the audits that you did.
Really, it was the speed and efficiency of which we did them. So it's I think we can talk. It's a large supermarket
Chain. Yep.
retail chain, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and they would, we're walking through their properties, in less than a day for capturing 600 or 700 assets in detail, actually putting barcodes onto the assets, getting all the details, from the assets, etc. And the speed of it, they was flabbergasted. So we managed to do it through last year, when it was through all the lockdowns throughout Australia, almost 2,000 stores, Australia wide, through all of that issues, and we did it in less than 5 months.
That's awesome. So that's phenomenally quick, isn't it? Yeah. And so we're talking metaphorical barcodes, aren't we? We're not saying you labelled the building with barcodes.
No, we physically tagged. Yeah, so right, every asset, we physically put a tag on every, or not every assets, but all the key assets.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And so
the process down itself, so we would have got through that portfolio quicker if we weren't physically.
If you weren't barcoding them.
Yeah.
Well, look, they understand barcodes. I'm sure as a supermarket chain, they understand barcodes. So as part of that, you discovered, I imagine, assets that they didn't know they had.
Yes.
And assets that they thought they had that they didn't have any longer, or?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we covered that off basically in the pilot. We did a number of stores in a pilot run, compared it to the existing data, and they realised that the data they had was, like I said in the first instance, extremely out of date. It was in a typical CMMS. It was in Maximo.
Yeah.
And they was updating to a newer version of Maximo, and they knew that what they had just was, because it was implemented probably 20 years ago when they first started using Maximo.
Right.
And that's another big problem is, the CMMS systems is typically they give you the system, you put your asset data in there, and you work from it.
Mm-hmm.
But the asset register doesn't get updated as efficiently or as good as it should.
No, because rubbish in, rubbish out, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And so how big a gap was there between what they thought they had and what they actually had? Like, can you give us some examples of the?
So I don't think it's an issue, is it? So it's well over 50% inaccurate.
Oh wow! Okay, so they had 50% more or less of what they thought, or just
a bit of both. They had some assets there that didn't exist.
Yep.
And a hell of a lot of assets there that did exist that they didn't have in their systems.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so what they're moving to is more of the IoT type of section. They want a scan to fix sort of system where, the staff can use a little PDA, scan their assets and log their work orders simply.
Yeah, perfect. And I mean, look, I imagine that solves a lot of, well, you don't need to fill in a form, you don't need to do any of that stuff. All the data's captured, right, when you scan it. Yeah.
That's exactly right, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. And you don't need to worry about ordering the wrong part or...
No, well,
it's like, oh no, it's the 20BE, not the 20BC.
Yeah, that's right. We had a mining client that was doing it, and they said, one of the areas would be just simply knowing what air conditioning unit they had in the dongas, the accommodation.
Yeah.
Because each time one fails, they have to call the technician. He has to go out to site, looks at what the unit is, goes back to the yard, picks up the pieces, goes back to the units. Whereas if he could just click on site and go, okay, I know that's a Fujitsu aircon, he could just go straight to site with that, and he's saving, a few hours each time.
Well, and also the people in there desperately waiting for the aircon to be turned back on would be having a better experience.
Tenancies too, right? Or whatever, and if you
it's 45 degrees.
If you transfer that to commercial buildings and think about the, say an aircon unit or hot water going down, it's quite critical to all the tenants in there that it gets up and running as fast as possible. Yeah, I think we've all worked in offices where the aircon's been down and it's either freezing cold or stinking hot.
Yeah, we certainly have. Yeah, I think it's why we all enjoy working from home now. So how big is AI Assets? Like, tell us about your team.
Yeah, so we've been expanding. So we're growing now to there'll be 8 members in the next few weeks. We're just recruiting in the final stages for our 4th software developer. Mm-hmm. And then we started with a BD guy, a new BD salesperson in the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And so just to be clear, if you're selling your product to, sorry, Schnauz is in the background. You're selling your product to to landlords and building owners, or you're selling your product to asset capture firms?
It's a few actually. So yeah, typically building consultants who do this type of work. They're a primary target for us, so they can use the system and go and do their work more efficiently and increase their profits and the outputs to their clients.
Yep.
There is obviously service providers, the building managers, FM managers, those type of areas, and ultimately it's the building owners, because they're the ones who foot all the costs basically. So they should be realizing that things can be done more efficiently and they can get more value out of it.
Yeah, awesome. As a real estate agent, you need to be doing more content marketing. But creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial, or click the link in our show notes. So tell us a little bit about your background. You've been an asset or a building consultant?
Yeah. So originally in the UK, I was a carpenter and joiner. That's where I first started when I left school many moons ago. Came over to us in the mid-90s and really transitioned. Got into doing condition audits on properties. So my first job with 99 was doing condition audits on TAFE in New South Wales. And using this really old cumbersome system that, to put one asset in, you had to enter about 30 fields, and it was just,
oh God.
You do about 5 assets an hour. It was shocking. So we went through TAFE, and even then we started trying different ways of doing it, using a little video recorder and recording, and then going to type it up and using voice recognition. But really from that, started doing that for many years, really. I've been doing that for over 20 years now. Doing condition audits, asset registers, life cycle modelling, and that type of stuff for properties. But using all the different sort of facilities. So that's where I started Aston in 2011.
Yep.
Originally as a building consultancy to do that type of work. We started building the product to help us do that work, and then we soon realised, no, once we got it, it was like, hey, this is really working well. Makes a huge difference. We've shifted to now be the PropTech company and step away from the consultancy.
Okay, awesome. If we change the valuation model, so AI Assets, I guess, has the potential to change the valuation, the way that we're valuing buildings, or is it just going to make those valuations a lot more, accurate?
Yeah, I think it can enhance the valuations. You're going to get greater insights into the building. Obviously valuation's a different area.
Yep.
But it's really going to enhance it because, you're going to know past costs, how the building's been maintained, what the future costs involved are, etc.
I guess it's going to be interesting if in the future we start to understand running costs, isn't it? Because it's a little bit like owning when you own a car, if you buy a brand new car that the running costs are going to be pretty low. And if you buy an older car, that the running costs are going to be higher. But it'll be interesting to see how that then impacts on the final value.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It is. It's a big part of the buildings, isn't it? Like you say, there's that many existing buildings out there.
Yeah.
That are old cars, and it's what's the cost on them? Yeah.
And is there the potential for this to help feed into things like neighbours' ratings or things that we're trying to understand? Yeah.
So I'm talking to a company at the moment about linking into doing energy audits and future ratings, that type of stuff for it. So without a doubt, it's really does fit into that area. And it's not really something that we want to link into the third party systems to help us do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Get those experts helping us.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's the competitive landscape like? Who are your main competitors, or who else is out there doing this sort of stuff?
Do I name them or what do I do? I don't want to know. I don't want to name competitors.
Well, no, most people normally don't. But I mean, is there a lot going on in the space, or is it like why?
There is to a degree. There's probably there's 4 or 5 close competitors. They do things a bit differently than what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got the fringe competitors. So there is like you get systems where it's a form builder and you can build your form to help you capture data.
Yeah.
And then obviously you get the CMSs, and a lot of them say we do this type of work, but they don't.
Right.
It's quite clear they don't when you use a system, but they'll say, yeah, no, we help you capture your data. But they don't do it to the depth and the speed and the accuracy that we do. So it's really, we don't see them as competitor CMSs. We hope to partner with those, so we can help, being their site audit tool, lifecycle tool that plugs into their systems and makes their data more accurate. And like you say, crap in, crap out. We're hoping to make it good in, good out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess the issue really is that people don't think in spreadsheets, which do we? Like when we're going around looking at a building, you don't tend to think in spreadsheets. Yet all of the systems and structures that we've created involve you requiring to think like you're in a spreadsheet. So whereas what you're doing is you're using an iPad, aren't you? So sort of capturing photos and tagging and
soon it'll be cross-platform. So we're addressing that. So it's going to be cross-platform. Yes, so that's what you're using, but you can get the Excel outputs still at the click button.
Yeah. So turning that unstructured data into structured data. Cool. So what do you think the next 5 years holds for commercial real estate, especially in this kind of asset space?
Yeah, I think we touched on it earlier. Is that the smart buildings actually becoming smart buildings and not what smart buildings are classed as now? I think that'll go to the next level where the systems do all talk to each other and they all get valuable insights from each other that affects everything else. And I think they'll give you the smarter outputs. You don't still need the expert there as such to go and tell you what those outputs mean.
Yeah.
I think the systems will talk together, and I think it'll be more smaller companies linking together. I don't think it'll be, there's so many systems out there that say they do everything.
Yeah.
And they're just big, in my experience, they're big and cumbersome. And a lot of people just get frustrated with them. It's, I think it's going to be more of an ecosystem, which is great for the PropTech sector we're all in, is there's going to be a lot of collaboration between these smaller PropTechs to make truly smart buildings.
Yeah, so we're seeing expertise being like an inch wide and a mile deep now, and then sort of that expertise handing off rather than kind of being sort of generalized and pretty crap across everything, right?
Expertise is from doing what I've done as a consultant for years. That's my expertise. So I'm not going to try and build something that's not my expertise.
No.
When somebody over here has got that expertise and I can join in with them and link together.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So Wayne, what does the future hold for AI assets? What's on your roadmap?
Yeah, so our roadmap really is now, to push our software further afield. We want to look at, obviously it's going to be difficult at the moment, but we want to go overseas in the next 12 months. But in the shorter term than that, we want to start linking in and having discussions and linking into these other third-party softwares to see what we can get, out of our systems together and how we can collaborate.
Cool. So the platform the platform's working, it's completely functional, and you're just really in scale mode, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. So we've been using it, in its first iteration for a number of years now. And really in the last 12 months, that's more been the beta testing from our side of it. In the last 12 months, we've started to get in some clients, some more word of mouth. We haven't really marketed huge, but now we're in the stage of, so we're there now ready. We know it's stable. We know it's working. We've got a good client base. So really now it's that scale mode. Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. Well, look, I'm really looking forward to watching the future of AI assets, making sort of dumb buildings and analog buildings digital and smart. It sounds like a great goal, and I think our cities will be better for it.
Yeah, hopefully, and I think together the PropTech will all make a great difference to the industry.
Yeah, Wayne Herbert, thanks so much for being on the PropTech podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
So that was Wayne Herbert from AI Assets, an asset register consultancy that has pivoted to become a PropTech after being able to see how they could capture assets and build asset registers more efficiently and easily using the power of big data and AI. What I love about AI assets is that it's solving an immediate pain point, which is seriously painful for commercial property owners and managers. I mean, imagine owning hundreds of assets, millions and billions of dollars in assets, to only really have a vague idea as to the state of the age of those assets, equipment, and the features of the building, and only really truly understanding the details about them when someone rings up to let you know that something's broken. AI Assets is a great illustration of how PropTech is helping us as an industry to move from being reactive to proactive as building owners and managers. And one of the biggest issues we face in trying to execute these ideas around smart cities and smart buildings is, well, where do you start? So much of the building stock in our cities is dumb. It's a legacy of when they were built and the disappearance of the information over time around the assets that are in those buildings. But starting with an asset audit that captures exactly what you've got and lets that quickly be updated so that you're dealing with an accurate flow of data, well, surely that's the first step to transforming our buildings and our cities. I think it's really exciting. So now, if you have enjoyed this episode of the PropTech podcast, I would love you to tell your friends or to drop me a line either via email, LinkedIn, or Facebook. And you can follow this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Apple iTunes. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie Hollins and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors, Direct Connect, making moving easy, Smidge Wines, exclusive wines made in limited quantities and available only via the cellar door at smidgewines.com, and Home Prezzo, now part of ActivePipe and helping you create engaging content for your email marketing. If you are a PropTech, please make sure you join the PropTech Association of Australia. Why? Well, because it means you'll be able to enter the very first ever PropTech Awards. We've got 21 awards up for grab for startups, scale-ups, and even established real estate property technology suppliers. So check out proptechassociation.com.au and go to the awards page. It's really easy to enter, but entries close on March 19, so get cracking. Thanks everyone. Until next week, keep on PropTeching.